This week on ConversionCast, we're talking about digital marketing best practices being used by independent hotels, content driving B2B purchases, a roundtable conversation all about marketing mascots and their effect on your business, and last but certainly not least, the new Cheetos restaurant opening up in New York City. We're bringing you all that and more this week on ConversionCast. Hello and welcome to ConversionCast, brought to you by the team at Leadpages and Drip. This week, as in every week, I am with my esteemed colleagues and marketing geniuses, Anna, Bob, Liz. How are you all today?
Great.
Good.
Amazing.
Good.
Rockin'. Fantastic.
I'm glad to hear that. We're going to kick things off as we do this week, every week, with the news and marketing. And I'm going to go right to Liz first. What's piquing your interest in marketing news this week?
Hey, so I just read an article on Skift by Sean O'Neill, and it's called Trivago Urges Independent Hotels to Get More Involved in Digital Marketing.
All right.
And, just quickly, I thought this was super interesting. So Trivago, the online travel agency site that pulls up hundreds of thousands of hotels for you to go to, is providing the tools to independent hotels to start marketing themselves online in a more efficient, better way so they can get seen. Because the fact is the majority of the hotels in the world are owned by small business owners. They're
Sure.
independent hotels. But the majority of the hotels that you'll find online when you're searching for a hotel is owned by a large chain. So I just thought it was super nice that they realize, this discrepancy, and they want to help out the independent business owners to help fuel their small hotel. The tool is called Hotel Manager, in case you also own a hotel and you want to start digging into this and get found.
Indeed.
I'll pass that along to my parents.
Yeah,
We have a
there
bed and
you go.
breakfast in Maryland.
There you go.
It's perfect. Yeah, and so just thought it was super interesting. Because sometimes a lot of small businesses can be intimidated in an online space, especially that they're not going to be able to compete with a bigger chain.
Definitely. Definitely. Leveling that playing field a little bit for people.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. Awesome. Bob, what do you got for us this week in marketing news?
I tell you what, this is the news to upend all attempts at good news.
I feel like I should have gone first because it's way better than my news.
You might want to do that, but too late.
Too late.
Ryan's already sent us down this path. The news is called, and it's everything you need to know, Cheetos is opening a restaurant, the Spotted Cheetah, and yes, it has a Cheetos-Heavy menu. This is from our friends at Adweek.
Yeah.
Christina Monlus is our author, and basically for 3 days, in the middle of August, they're opening up a restaurant with a really great chef, all Cheeto menu, meatballs, mac and cheese, anything you can think of. And there's a legit website behind this at thespottedcheetah.com. Open Table looks to be fully booked out for reservations. It's in Tribeca. Maybe go take a look at Broadway and Franklin Streets. There's going to be a line, I'm sure, of people hoping people cancel.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But when you know your niche, you know your group, test it out with a pop-up restaurant. That's my takeaway. It's a fantastic experiment in culinary delicacies.
Sure.
So I love that they're bringing Cheetos into the mix, and they're bringing the scarcity factor into the mix because it's a pop-up and you can only be there for a few days. So boom, anybody who loves Cheetos.
Yeah, and what a great news event, right? So
Unreal.
Yeah, how
just
much?
a good PR that's going to be talked
All
about
over
for the next
Instagram.
week or so.
Exactly.
All over Snapchat.
I just hope everything is coated in a fine layer of cheese dust. Everything, seats, the walls,
It's like a
the whole
Cheeto
thing
apocalypse.
is just
Boom.
covered in
You got to
dust.
walk out
So,
orange. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the goal.
I love it.
Awesome. Anna, what piqued your interest in the marketing news?
If
this
we
week?
were able to cover this news in Cheeto dust, it might be as exciting as Bob's news.
New strategy.
We'll still love it, I'm certain.
But let's think about for a second the average content marketer who's working in the B2B space. It's a challenging thing to make your content land in a way that actually converts. And it's an article from Marketing Profs. Ayaz Nanji was the author, and the title is The Content Qualities That Most Influence B2B Purchasing Behavior. There are 3 big takeaways. One is if you can have your content include points that speak to specific pain. If you can cover that, that's super important. 2, you need to provide product or service specifications going into details about real aspects of the tool that will impact the marketing flow. And then 3, you need to make sure that content is more educational than promotional in nature. And I think a lot of us intuitively understand that, but it's nice to have it laid out in a framework like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Cover it in Cheetah dust.
Yes.
You just stole it. Well done.
Great minds think alike. Thank you all for bringing in a little nugget from the news this week. As always, we'll put links to all those articles in the show notes, whether you're listening to us on iTunes or whatever podcast app you prefer, or watching us on the internets. We'll have links to all those for you so you can check them out yourself. Thanks to you all. We'll be right back in 1 second. We're going to take a quick break here and come back with our roundtable discussion today, talking about marketing mascots. I'm curious to know people's favorites and some thoughts on that. We'll get to that in just a moment here. This episode of ConversionCast is brought to you by Converted, the nation's premier marketing conference from the team at Leadpages and Drip. Join us for 2 days of networking, fun, and education. You'll learn proven conversion marketing campaigns and see presentations from 15 experts, including our keynote speaker, film director, and podcaster Kevin Smith. We hope you'll join us at Converted this October 17th and 18th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tickets are on sale now at converted.com. Welcome back. You just heard or saw a quick bit about our marketing conference thrown by the Leadpages and Drip teams.
Converted 17.
We are very excited for Converted 17 coming up, featuring some pretty fantastic folks. Anna will be one of the folks speaking
So
there.
will illustrious Bob the teacher.
Oh, yeah. The illustrious Bob the teacher will be there as well.
I'll be checking people in at the door.
Yes.
So
Yes.
look for that.
If you want to high five Liz, time to get your tickets.
Liz will autograph.
Creeping up
I
quickly.
will, yeah.
Like
Yep.
really quickly.
Yeah. Less than 2 months away.
Less than 2 months away now. So get your tickets for Converted, converted.com. We're excited about it. And
What's
we'll see
better
all of
than
us there.
Minneapolis in the fall?
Oh,
It's beautiful.
Very.
Perfect time of year.
And people don't know this. It's like a little gem. So be one of the insiders, Minneapolis insiders.
Yes. Anna's a new transplant. So
I am.
she's learning
so
all
I'm
of the virtues.
beating that drum.
Yes, good. I love it. So let's kick into today's roundtable topic, a fun one. I think maybe originally pitched by you, Liz, if I'm not mistaken.
Long ago.
But one thing that we wanted to talk about today is brand mascots.
Speaking of Chester Cheetah.
Speaking of Chester Cheetah, yes, indeed. Part of marketing for decades, as far as I know. I mean, I think maybe we all had kid experiences at first. You got Ronald McDonald and Tony the Tiger and Chester Cheetah and things like that. But many that exist today, and I think, the KFC Colonel one is reinventing with new actors all the time. We see these continue to play out in marketing, and I kind of want to throw to you guys, what's up with that? Why brand mascots?
I don't know. To me, they're memorable.
Yep.
But I don't know if they convert more. When we talk about Cheetos, I think immediately of other orange fingertip deliciousness like Doritos.
Yes.
No mascot.
Yeah.
Cheetos mascot.
Sure.
Do I order one over the other because of a cartoon character? I'm not sure. But I'm also not 7. And as a 7-year-old,
Yeah.
I might have more of an interest in the mascot.
I think that's a great point, Bob. 'Cause I remember as a kid, I did not care about the cereal without an animal on it. Who cares about, Frosted Mini Wheats? There's no animal on it.
Right.
Give me the animal.
Sure.
It must be healthy for you if there's no animal on it.
You need to see Toucan Sam to feel like that's something that you want.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
can
wanted
see
to
that.
see those great big doe eyes staring at me, telling me to buy the cereal.
Liz, any favorites from childhood or onward that brand mascots that meant something to you or caught you?
I don't know. I don't really get into mascots. I don't like to be by them. Not that I'm like afraid of them or anything. I just don't know how to interact so much with them. But I think it would be interesting to know. I mean, you brought up Cheetos versus Doritos. It would be interesting to know like how relatable consumers feel one is over the other because they have those extra touch points with the mascot. Like, will they be, after they meet Chester, will they be more inclined to buy Cheetos over Doritos?
Sure.
Like, I don't know. That'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah, anthropomorphizing or, making human something that, humanizing a brand in a way, putting it into a person. I do think it's almost a shortcut in some ways to showing who you are or who you want to be, is putting it all under the umbrella of an individual or an animal or a character. You can give that thing characteristics that you want people to associate with your brand, which sometimes I think is harder to do if you don't have the layer of a character to just give it to.
Mm-hmm. especially if it's something like a snack chip or something. Like, how do I make this be really cool or seem really cool? Like,
Sure.
let's make a really cool mascot
Yeah.
to go along with it.
Or
Yeah.
even something really complex like what Moz does. It's all about an SEO suite built for more technical marketers, and they have a mascot, Roger, the robot.
Awesome.
And they put them everywhere. They put them on their swag. They give them away. They have them walking around at the conference. They have photo ops with Roger.
Yeah.
And so I think it can humanize a very complex system too. And I think, there could be drawbacks, right, to cartoonizing your brand. Maybe it's seen as less serious, but I think that there is some leeway, especially with startups. You see it happen a lot. One of my favorites is it's an app called Honey Badger, and it's built for Ruby developers.
Sure.
And they actually haven't introduced the image of a mascot, but because they're using that name Honey Badger that most of us know from the internet meme,
Yep.
it automatically brings a smile to your face, right?
Yeah.
And so that can make something that is a bit more technical a lot more friendly and relatable.
Yeah.
So
It's interesting that in some ways it's just an additional brand touch point that you normally wouldn't have. If you didn't have that character, but I think your point is also well taken, whether or not it's potentially distracting from a brand by maybe making it less serious. Because I think we associate them with childhood, right? And so that can bring out, immature brand or can make people think something like that.
I'd say it also can put in some nostalgia. I'm thinking
Sure.
of sports marketing.
Sure.
And my beloved Orioles, of course, have the Oriole bird, and we
Yep.
have TC Bear here in the Twin Cities for the Twins. And I think it captures a young audience. I've got nieces that have had their picture taken, and they're excited. And for those of us that are a little bit older, I think it makes me feel a little harken back to that time when I
Yeah.
would go to the baseball stadium, be around family, and just have that emotional feel tied together.
That reminds me of a quick stat that Liz shared with me off air. Do you want to share some of your research with us for today?
So I've been doing a lot of digging around this topic.
Yes. I'm so glad.
I've been looking at howtobeamascot.com, which is a thing that exists.
Phenomenal.
And
Did you
can
watch
learn.
Behind the Mask on Hulu?
No,
That's a great show.
I haven't seen it. I've heard
It's a
good things.
great show.
That's awesome. But I learned that the highest paid mascot in Major League Baseball is the Philly Fanatic, and you could get that at your event for like $1,000 an hour.
Oh wow.
Which is pretty good.
Oh, wow.
Like if you're a mascot, some mascots can make up to $100,000 a year. That's
Hey.
amazing.
Hey, not a bad.
So I guess you have to be, when you're in that level, you have to be a high earning, like big business. I'm from Wisconsin, and my favorite team is the Packers, and we didn't have a mascot. So I didn't grow up with that experience.
what about Bucky
that
the
you
Badger?
had. I don't know.
I just learned recently, speaking of mascots, that McDonald's has sort of acknowledged that Ronald McDonald has been sort of quietly not as public related to some of the clown incidents that have been happening around the country, where
R.I.P.
there's
Ronald.
sort of creepy clowns hanging out in neighborhoods, and the reignition of the movie It. And I do think too, you do kind of maybe walk a thin line by if you tap into some social groupthink or touch points that were like, oh, everyone will like this thing. You do also run the risk of attaching yourself to something that may not carry that same weight all the way into the future.
Maybe something that's a little bit outside of your control.
Right, that too. So I know brand mascots aren't really a realistic thing for all of us to have, especially if you're maybe on the smaller end of things. It might not be your first priority is creating a mascot or a character to represent your brand. Do y'all feel like there's anything that small businesses or people that maybe don't have a mascot can take away from just the bigger concept of mascots? We can't all hop in a green suit and charge $1,000 an hour to go to parties, even though we wish we could. But is there any takeaways or anything that we can learn from maybe using those touch points or those touchstones in our marketing?
Yeah, for me, it's having a recognizable face. So a mascot has typically a cartoonish face to it.
Yeah.
But for an average business owner, a lot of times there's a tendency to hide behind the business, and consumers need that connective relationship. So a headshot the same headshot
Yeah.
on all social networks as the new mascot, I think, in our time. Not a headshot that you took 20 years ago, not a headshot that isn't really your personality, that somebody did in a Sears studio.
Yeah.
Nothing against those. They're just, if they don't
both
represent
have their
you,
own
then they have a problem. Right. But having a good headshot that's common across all, that makes that connection relatable, and it becomes a logo in itself. I think that's what I take away from what mascots can do.
That's great. I think that's really salient advice for people that aren't going to buy a suit and create the character. You can be the character in some ways.
Yep.
If you
Awesome.
don't feel like you can prioritize the idea of a mascot, I think that's a lot of folks, a lot of folks are in. And
Yeah.
for Drip, when we first thought about, we actually didn't think about a mascot. It just happened. So our first T-shirt was, I don't know, within a week or two of us launching, because we were going to be at a conference, and the idea was, well, we should be giving away swag, right? And so the mascot for Drip is a little droplet with a face on it, who's named Drippy.
Drippy.
And his first appearance was on that T-shirt, and he was like this little robotic version of it. And now, when you log into Drip, you can find him all over the place,
Yeah.
kind of emphasizing a pleasant experience, and kind of pointing the way towards proper usage. And
Yeah.
it's kind of fun.
Yeah. Awesome. I do love that inclusion. That was a fun discovery. Little Easter egg kind of throughout the app. Awesome. Liz, any final words?
I think, you know what, if you really do want to get into the mascot game, I think that even if you are a small business or have a small business, you can create a pretty simple homemade mascot costume and, get out in your community. I mean,
Sure.
word of mouth is how a lot of businesses are found. So if you have those humanizing touch points with people in your community with your mascot, I think that's a nice way. So why not?
Yeah.
Why not prioritize that?
Yeah.
And if you can't come up with one, get one of those inflatable T-Rex outfits and run around, because everybody loves a T-Rex.
Yep. You'll be the talk of the town.
Thanks to you all. That's going to wrap our roundtable for this week. We'll be right back with our social Q&A with some questions that have come in on the Leadpages and Drip social media accounts. We'll be right back. Would you like to be featured on ConversionCast? Leave us a short voicemail at 612-568-8732 with your name, the name of your business, and your very best marketing tip. You could be featured on an upcoming episode of ConversionCast just like this. So give us a call and share your marketing expertise with us. We can't wait to hear from you. We are back. This is still ConversionCast, and we move now into our section that we do every week where we answer your questions from marketers around the world that come in through the Leadpages and Drip social media accounts. We've got a couple this week from two folks who wrote in, and our first one today comes from Eric Leskowitz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Eric. I did my darndest, I promise. Eric wants to know, how do you see the constant adjustment of the public as a whole with email? We work with teens, and they're using email more for work and scholarships, but rarely check for daily communication. I thought this was an interesting take. You hear rumors of this here and there for people that feel like younger audiences are maybe less engaged with email than maybe we are here at this table. How do we see that adjustment happening, and are there some ways to sort of circumvent or work around or improve upon on that situation?
Yeah, I think the natural tendency is to jump to SMS marketing and say, well, they have their phone, they're going to text, but most people are really annoyed by SMS marketing.
Sure.
So I would hesitate to jump to that. I would instead think, how can I make my email communication as valuable as possible so that when it is checked, mine is the first one they want to read, and the content of it is going to bring them back again and again. Even though open rates may be a little lower than they have been, and especially among demographics, I still think it's the best way for you to control communication. And if you can also tap into some of the other areas, social media, direct message, things like that, great. But don't throw out the email just because it's a little bit on the downside.
Yeah.
I think it's most important to think about how do I, because I did a little research after I read this question, and I read from the Adestra Consumer Adoption and Usage Study about teens using email. They found that even 14 to 18-year-olds, 73% of them were using email consistently every day. Oh, yeah. And so I think that implies that they're using it for more than just school or just scholarship. So I'm not even sure if that big of a shift is even happening, because the same study found that it was in line with the usage rate of people who were using email from the start, since it was like widely available to everybody. Sure. And so But the thing that I did take away from this study is that teens were looking at emails more on their phone and their mobile devices. So I think you don't even have to worry about tailoring your copy in an email so much to them. You know, you don't really have to use their like teenage lingo, but you do have to make it so they can see it on their phone or their tablet.
So maybe not put like a "Hey kids" in the subject line.
Yeah. So can you like look at this? You know, like don't do that. Talk to them like adult humans, but you know, think about reaching them on what they're looking at. So.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to also having mobile responsive email just from the template and the shape of the email, and not to worry so much about having these really fancy, overly graphic emails,
Right.
because it's just straight to the content is what they're going to want.
Add value, keep testing.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Cool.
kind of a classic marketing idea.
We've got another question that came in through social this week from Austin Roberson, who wants to know, how do I turn more leads into buyers? Which is a big question, and maybe the big question for most marketers and sales folk in general. Since it is so big and open-ended, any big and open-ended answers or more specific ones?
You know, I love how broad it is, because that means that pretty much everybody can learn from that question, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times when people are talking about turning leads into buyers, you have a way of acquiring those leads.
Right.
And if your leads are not super interested in your product to begin with, that's going to really drive down your conversion rates. So what can you do to fix the top of your funnel? A lot of people choose a strategy of making a lead magnet that's hyper relative or relatable to their actual core product. So if you can do that, it's going to attract the right kind of lead to begin with.
Sure.
Then you think about the next phase as a conversion. If you can make yourself likable and relatable as a person and as a company, that's a super effective tactic. A lot of folks take the webinar approach for this. And then don't stop communicating with them. Don't let them have the ownership of that conversation.
Yeah.
You drive that conversation. And a lot of people will choose email. A lot of people will choose chat bots or other methods of getting their attention of the leads. But you don't want to let them fall off the radar.
Yeah.
And it's okay to disqualify leads too. You're going to have people that, ultimately aren't a good fit for the product, and say goodbye to those folks as early on as possible, so you're not wasting your resources on a lead that won't ever convert.
Yeah. That's great.
Those are all fantastic points. And I would also add to that, ask them to buy.
Sure.
So many businesses that I get to interact with just forget that it's their job to say, I have something to buy and here's how you can buy it. You know, I'm excited that earlier this month we released our checkout so people can do that right on a landing page.
Yep.
But whether it's an email, whether it's on the phone, whether it's in person, people who have trouble with the selling part are resistant to actually saying, by the way, give me money for what I have. It's
Right.
of value. It's
Right.
great stuff.
Right.
I'll do it.
Yeah, that's great. Liz, anything to add?
I thought that was all pretty good.
It was all pretty good.
It's good advice.
Yes, great advice. Anna, Bob, Liz, thank you for your brains this week.
You're welcome.
Hey. No
Appreciate
problem.
you every time. That's going to wrap things up both for our social Q&A and for this episode of ConversionCast. Thank you so much for joining us. Do head over to converted.com if you want to get those tickets. Get them sooner rather than later. They might not be there by the time you check if you wait too long. So definitely check out converted.com for those. And as always, we'll be back next week with another episode of ConversionCast.